Greetings and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Brene Bradley and my YouTube channel is at 2 Life After 50. So it's been a while since I posted anything. I posted a few things when I first started the channel, but then I just wasn't like inspired or led. I didn't have any topics that I really wanted to discuss. Then recently I've had this thought about adult children. I talk to my friends. I watch things on. I do video. Watch other videos, and this thing about relationships with mature adults and their adult children just kept coming up. But I didn't know exactly how to handle it or whatever. But something happened recently that led me to exactly how I should present it. So anyway, I invite you, before we get into the topic, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. You will need to press the bell because I don't post all the time. I just do it when I'm inspired to do something. So you'll never know if you don't press the bell. I invite you to join my little YouTube family. I have another YouTube channel, Me and My Bible. I do Bible studies on that one. But this one is just issues of life. So I invite you to do that. So today, dealing with your adult children. As I said, it's been something that's been on my mind for a while, but I just didn't know how to come at it. But recently something happened that helped me to really kind of crystallize my thinking. So I'm sure you probably heard of Kirk Franklin. This is 2021, and so you probably know that there was a big scandal. He was having a conversation. He has a difficult relationship with his son, and he had a conversation with him where he was kind of cussing him out on the phone, and his son taped it and released it. So as you might imagine, it was a big thing. Well, I don't want to go into the cussing thing, all that. I'll do another video on that. But this relationship was obviously toxic. So I started to think, like, what's going on with this? And so I said, well, my first question was, how old is the child? And so when I looked into it a little bit, I was surprised that he is like 32 or 33 years old. This is not a child. This is a grown man. And then it kind of dawned on me that the dynamics between two adults is really what can cause the problem between a parent and their adult son or daughter. So I have a couple of definitions I want to start with first. So, and this really for me painted a good picture as well. So a child is a young person, especially between infancy and puberty. 32 is not either of those things, or a person not yet of the age of majority. And at 30 some odd years old, that is very much majority. That's an adult. The law says that's an adult, that's an adult. A parent, one that begets or brings forth an offspring. This is out of the Webster's Dictionary online. And the other is a parent is a person who brings up and cares for another. So that cares for another, like how much caring for another are we talking about here? Parenting, now you can be a parent. That doesn't mean you're parenting. Parenting is raising a child or taking care of someone in the manner of a parent. So this idea that you are parenting someone who is an adult is problematic, or treating them like a child. But then the dynamics of the relationship can be so that the young adult, your son or daughter, is kind of used to having it both ways. Yes, I'm grown, but then again, when they need something, they come to their parent, and so the relationship gets muddled. So one of the things that really, the word that came to my mind when I started to process all this was responsibility. Like, who is the responsible person in this relationship? Well, each person is responsible for their own life. When they're an adult, they're responsible for their own life. But sometimes things can get off kilter. And as adults, we hold their hands so long that we never let responsibility grow in them. Another thing we sometimes don't do is we don't let the natural consequences that help responsibility to grow to actually happen. We actually get our young person, our son or daughter, out of every circumstance that they get themselves into because we don't want them to be hurt. We don't want them to be, uncomfortable and those kinds of things. So we get them out of something they got themselves into. Years of this kind of behavior creates dysfunction. That's the bottom line. So I have a little um, graph here to make my point. So you see here, when the child is born, the parent is up at the top, full responsibility, responsible for everything other than breathing. That's about the only thing, and pooping. That's the only thing they can do on their own. Everything else we have to do for them. As they get older, we have to tell them to do the things that are right to do, and it's a constant thing. But as they get older, that should shift. So we start here with the parent at the top of the responsibility spectrum and the child at the bottom. But as that child grows, the responsibility should be, their responsibility for themselves should be going up, and the parent's responsibility for that son or daughter should be going down. And so by the time they are an adult of, say, 20, not 18, but 20, 25, 30, wherever that kind of is, they should be totally responsible for themselves. And the parent, the mature parent, should not be telling them what to do. Now, that doesn't mean that you cannot offer advice. Of course, we want to offer advice. We have wisdom, we have experience. And if they're wise, and if you've had a good relationship, they'll take your advice, but they won't take it all the time. And that's got to be okay with us. We have to be willing to give advice, but have the other person not necessarily take the advice if that's not what they want to do. But then here's the critical part. What happens is, whatever decision your adult child makes in their life, they are then responsible for the consequences of the positive consequences or the negative consequences. You have to be willing, we have to be willing to sit back and say, well, that was your decision. And so now if you went on a vacation and you spent all your money and now you don't have rent, well, you have to figure out how you're going to fix that. Because if the parent is always fixing, the parent is going to, of course, feel like they have a stake in the decision making. So they can say, no, you can't go on vacation with your friends because you haven't paid your rent yet. And then the adult child says, well, you can't tell me what to do. I'm grown. Well, if you're going to come back to me and try to ask for money when you get back from your vacation, yes, I can. You see how that can just create all kinds of schisms, all kinds of dysfunction. So we understand now that our role as parents, our legacy as a parent, a good parent, is not just to teach our children to be morally correct and be intellectually sound and financially and all that, but to be a responsible person for their own decisions in their life. That is a part of our legacy as parents. So here's a couple of things that came to mind. Okay, so now we've identified this is probably a lot of the problem where there's this kind of thing going back between two adults, one the parent and the other the son or daughter of the parent. So a couple of things that just kind of came to mind as I was processing this is step one is you really want to just accept, and if you're the mature adult, the parent, you want to accept that part of this is because of some things that maybe you did not do right. That's not to say blame. That is to say you contributing to the problem. You cannot fix any problem until you can kind of figure out what your role in the problem is. So as a parent, you want to say, okay, I understand that part of this is me. And so I have to change my behavior. That's the way we'll get things going differently if I change my behavior. Then if you're a praying person, I am. I want to pray for the right time to talk to my child, because the next thing I need to do is I need to explain to them that I had this epiphany that our relationship gets raggedy because I'm trying to step over into a parent role with an adult who should be responsible for their own decisions and their own what they do in their life. So have that conversation, but also be able to explain that you might see me do some things differently. So I'm going to, we're going to have these boundaries. You're going to have the boundaries, setting boundaries on your life, your decisions, but you also are going to have the boundaries of those consequences being yours as well. And I won't be that person that was always trying to reach over. Sometimes our adult children don't even ask for help. We jump in. Well, let me do this and let me do that. So you create, your boundaries. You have a discussion about that. And then probably the hardest thing to do is to stick with it. That's with anything, whether it's an addiction to chocolate or whatever, a new diet, or you're not going to do this anymore or that anymore. The hardest part about anything new that's different from the way you have operated your life in the past is to stick with it. So once you have these boundaries with your adult son or daughter, notice I'm trying not to say child, because definition of a child is infancy to puberty, and that's not what we want here. Your adult son or daughter, that you stick with it. And then if you decide there's something you do want to help with, then you can have a really make it like a contract, really make it like, okay, this is how this is going to go. That's what boundaries are about. Being very specific so there are no missed expectations. And sometimes it's even good to write it down. Now you know that there's going to be some pull and tug on that for a while until you hold your ground long enough that you create a relationship with your child that's more in balance. Or me too, it could me as well. So those are the things. Accept your role in this imbalanced relationship. Pray for a good time to talk about it. You know, the important thing about having a discussion that someone will actually hear what you're saying is timing and tone. Sometimes it's not even the words that you say, it's how you say it, the intent of your heart, not to lord over them or tell them what's on your mind and all that kind of stuff. No, it's that you want to have a better relationship. And so timing is important in how you say that. You want to talk it through. Sometimes you might want to write a letter or something and then read it to them so that you can kind of get it all out. However you can communicate so that it doesn't get emotional and all out of hand. You want to change your own behavior so that you are no longer playing that parent adult role. You want to be, stand flat footed. These are the boundaries. Stick with your boundaries. Be consistent, be consistent, be consistent. And if there is something that you really do want to help your child with, let's say an investment or something like that, have a contract. Let it be clear. And then if that's broken, you know that the next time you may not want to, that's a bad investment. So sometimes we have to, if we want to come out of the role of a dysfunctional situation where we are trying to parent a grown adult, we are just going to have to do some things differently. And so these are some suggestions. Of course, they are not written in stone. Of course, they are not a part of any kind of research or anything like that. It's just kind of my observations, what was placed on my heart to share with you. And I just hope that if nothing else, it gives you some food for thought. So take care. Next time I have something to say about Act 2, Life After 50, I'll let you know. So don't forget to press that bell so that you will be notified when something comes in my mind that I want to share. Take care. God bless.